love a joke.
Say, Lucy.
Yeah, Ricky?
A tramp came up to me in the street and he said he hadn't had a bite in weeks.
What'd you do, bite him? Opening butler joke, buddy, come on.
The master says to the butler, Jeeves, did you put fresh water in the goldfish bowl? And the butler says, why? They didn't drink up what I gave them last night.
You know that ancient joke about the guy who saves his regiment, shoots the cook?
No. How does it go?
Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Wednesday morning. Today, the focus will be on religion. You're welcome to call in 436 MeTV option 11. Remember, do turn down the sound or we will not be able to hear you. Back in a moment.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
We are going to talk about religion today. There is no doubt about it. But, you know, we cannot talk about the Jewish religion without talking about the peace agreement that is on the table right now in the Middle East. We can't do that. It's just impossible. So what is it going to take right now between the Israelis and the Palestinians to actually broker a deal? As I said, an agreement is on the table. They've been trying to hash this thing out now for the last 6 or 7 months. But I think the biggest thing that's on the table right now, the biggest thing that's dividing the two sides, the Israelis and the Palestinians, is the word trust. Neither side trusts each other. Let's go to the videotape and I'll take you to Jerusalem. That is in Israel, a beautiful city. If you haven't been there, you've got to make that trip at least once in a lifetime. Of course, right now, the Israelis control the city of Jerusalem, and they want to keep it that way. The Palestinians want a portion of East Jerusalem and the West Bank, and they want the Israeli occupation to end. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, of course, tried in the past to negotiate a deal. Now John Kerry is trying to do the same. Many feel that President Obama may also play a key role in negotiating a peace agreement. The Palestinians want their own statehood, but there are some sticking points. The Palestinians believe the only way to achieve that is to stop the Jewish settlements in the West Bank. Further, they want to limit the presence of the Israeli army to 5 years in the area. Israel says no, it wants to extend the stay of troops in the Jordan Valley for up to 40 years to repel against any possible invasion. Israel is worried about security. That is their number one concern. We shall see if Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas can trust each other enough to put together a deal. The deadline is April 29th. Live in our studio right now is Rabbi Rick Weiner of Temple Beth Israel, right here in the city of Fresno. He is here to talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but he is also here to talk about the Jewish religion. So your questions at 436 MeTV option 11. Do call in. Do turn down the sound. We're back with our program here in just a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
There's a lot to talk about today, a lot of ground to cover here in the half hour. Of course, talking about religion and talking about the state of Israel, the Israelis and the Palestinians, a conflict that has been going on for decades, maybe centuries, I think would be the right term. Rabbi Rick Weiner is here to talk about this from Beth Israel here in the city of Fresno. So is this just another shot in the dark, so to speak, like all the other attempts? What do you think?
Well, I don't know that I would describe it as a shot in the dark. First of all, thank you for having me on the show.
Well,
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.
It's, you know, they've been trying for decades. I like to focus on the areas where there are successes and where they have come together. Certainly the peace agreement with Egypt has held well. The relations with Jordan have been good and strong. They're sharing business and technology. And in fact, we just had a really interesting issue come over the media with Scarlett Johansson and her support of one of the companies doing business in the West Bank. And the interesting thing there was that she stood by them because they're having such work together, positive work with both equal pay for all the different employees.
Good morning. You're on Connect with Me, caller. Your question.
Yeah, I was wanting to tell you that I don't think that we should get a broker deal between them because that will usher in the tribulation.
Because why?
It will usher in the tribulation if that happens. That's the start of the tribulation. Is a peace treaty with Israel and its enemies.
So as you can see, there are a lot of deep religious issues that that surround the actions and reactions within Israel and the Middle East, and those actually play into international politics. A lot of that is a matter of belief. Some people say that it doesn't matter what humanity does; it's in God's hands when it comes to those kinds of issues and where they progress.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you something, because there's so many differences between the two sides and so many issues that are on the table, as you just said. Now, of course, one of those issues is Israeli security. Yeah. You know, Benjamin Netanyahu is worried about the state of Israel being safe, being secure. On the other side, Mahmoud Abbas does not want to recognize Israel as a state. Okay, that's another issue. Then there's the West Bank issue. No more settlements. They don't want any more Jewish settlements in the West Bank, and they want to revert back to the 1967 borders. And then they want a part of East Jerusalem. So, I mean, this is a complex issue. I don't know how to solve it. I don't think anybody knows how to solve it. They've been trying for decades, as you said. Hang on, another phone call here. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. Your question.
Yes, I'd like to state that Israel proclaimed itself a nation in 1948, if I recall. And if I recall, also, they invaded Egypt in 1956. I think it was 1967 that they started the Six-Day War. And they started the border clashes with Syria in 1972 and the Golan Heights in 1974. They started massacring Palestinians in 1978, and it goes on from there. You know,
I'm sure you'll have a lot of people. I'm sure you'll have a lot of people disagreeing with you on that.
Well, you know, in 1967, Israel attacked the United States naval vessel, the USS Liberty, killing U.S. sailors.
Okay, I'll let the rabbi go ahead and respond to that.
As you pointed out, John, there are a lot of disagreements with who's at fault in various issues, and your vantage point that security is a key feature is really one of the most important ones. We're looking at a world in which the Jewish community was massacred during World War II. And to tell a body of people that they should compromise on their security makes it extremely challenging.
Let me ask you about that, because I mentioned all the issues. You mentioned some of them too. One issue is in terms of security. Mahmoud Abbas wants NATO troops indefinitely to be present in the West Bank. Do you think that would work? Would Netanyahu hand over security to NATO forces, and would that work?
Well, what I think ultimately doesn't matter.
I just want your opinion.
what I can tell you from the vantage point of various people scrutinizing this, people who are actually decision makers, the NATO forces have not always been as effective as people would like.
Right.
So there's a lot of questioning as to whether or not that would be effective.
Yeah.
Would it? I don't know. There are certainly people who are considering that option, but the track record has been mixed. So that's why it's not a guarantee that that would do what we would like.
Netanyahu says he doesn't trust anyone but his own army to guard the West Bank and guard Israel from an attack from the east, with so many things being unstable in say, Syria, Iraq right now. No question about it.
And the instability is a concern not only to the Israelis, but it's a concern to much of the Arab world, especially those who have been striving for stability. I know, for example, there have been some limited partnerships between Israel and Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia is looking for stability as well. Jordan and Israel have cooperated on a lot because they're also looking for stability. The instability is scary to everyone. And a lot of us like to focus on those issues where we do have common interests and share the outcomes that we're all desiring. And security for everybody is one that we can share in certain ways, and focusing on that can help.
Yeah, and one of the main sticking points, of course, is Abbas refusing to recognize Israel as a state, the state of Israel. And, you know, his claim is, hey, when they signed an agreement with Jordan and Egypt, those two countries didn't have to recognize Israel as a state. So there's so much pulling and tugging on these issues.
But a lot of this is political posturing. So,
Right.
So on one side, Netanyahu is opening up more settlements theoretically than he may ultimately bargain for. He may be putting more on the table in order to get the other side to compromise. So.
I see.
He may be saying, okay, we're going to have 1,500 settlements. Abbas is saying we're not going to recognize Israel, and perhaps they're looking for a compromise in between.
Right. Talking to Rabbi Rick Weiner here of Temple Beth Israel here in the city of Fresno, talking about the Palestinians, the Israelis, of course, in the Middle East, and their proposed agreement that's on the table right now. John Kerry's trying to hash that out. We'll see what happens. 436 MeTV option 11. We're going to talk about Temple Beth Israel, a little bit about the rabbi himself. Back in just a moment.
Now, why don't you tell us the whole story right from the beginning? All right, from the beginning. This is the city, Los Angeles, California. My name's Friday. I carry a badge. Police officers.
You any idea who the other man was?
My partner's Bill Gannon.
Program?
We got just one big question.
Yeah.
When?
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
We're back here on the show today talking about religion, and we're here with the Rabbi Rick Weiner of Temple Beth Israel. I'm so glad that you're here and talking about religion. To you, what does the Jewish religion represent? What is it that you want people to know about your religion?
It's certainly hard to boil it down into a quick soundbite. There's the story of Rabbi Hillel from 2,000 years ago, who basically said, "What is hurtful to you, do not do to another. The rest is commentary."
Yeah.
So I keep that in mind. It's about the pursuit of justice. And one of the major reasons that I went into Judaism as a professional is because of the imperative to engage in the work of making the world a better place. We talked a bit about world politics. I tend to do my work more on a local level and try to get involved in anything that we can do to help better the community. I especially enjoy doing that in interfaith areas and have been really pleased to find some great avenues for that here locally.
And you are originally from the Bay Area, right?
Yeah, the East Bay.
Yeah, the East Bay. You're not from here. You've only been here, what, 3 years?
This is my 3rd year, and we're really enjoying it here.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Temple Beth Israel here in the city of Fresno. We have a number of videotapes. Let's show the stained glass, first of all, because I'm always enamored with stained glass windows in my church and wherever I go. They're certainly a thing to look at. And there's the inside of Temple Beth Israel, I'm assuming
that's in our library. That's it's also used as a small chapel.
It's a menorah, I believe, on the stained glass window, right?
It is. The menorah, the 7-branched menorah, is one of the most ancient symbols of Judaism.
Take a call here. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Rabbi Rick Weiner. Caller? Hello, caller? Oh, caller is gone. Okay, what are we looking at here now?
That's the large sanctuary. The Ark is where the Torah scrolls are kept. It's a artistic rendition of the 10 Commandments.
Oh,
there on screen.
That's interesting. So that's a nice visual pan of that whole area up there. And so how old is Temple Beth Israel?
Well, the building we're looking at is just over 20 years old, but the congregation is closer to 90 years old. We were downtown for many years.
Yeah. Most of the Jewish community here in the city of Fresno, where did they come from? Do you know?
Many
they migrate here, in other words.
We have a good number who were born and raised here. We have a lot who have come for various work opportunities, a lot in the medical field.
What are we looking at here?
So those are the Torah scrolls. Inside of the Ark, which is normally a focal point of a sanctuary, are the Torah scrolls. The content of each one is identical. So you have the first 5 books of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy right there.
Wow, that's amazing. So, listen, we do have a phone call. We'll get back to my question here. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm just wondering, do you think that the two sides will ever meet, Israel and the Palestine? Or right now, is there too many people that still remember the old days, the old times, for peace to work? Because I've seen that on both sides, the younger generations coming up, they're willing to give it more of a chance, but the older generations that still be the powers that be, the ones in charge, are just not allowing it.
Well, and even within the older generation, you're going to find people who have gotten along with each other and always do. So the key is to find the people who are more willing to make compromise. I keep in mind the agreements with Egypt, the peace with Jordan, and consider that we've got some wonderful models that have been solid. It was really scary a couple years ago as everything was falling apart in Egypt. One of the things that we were really concerned about was, would the peace that held continue to hold? And even with significant changes politically in the leadership of Egypt, it has held.
Roll another piece of videotape here. It's called Scriptures, and I want you to emphasize in your religion, and you're looking at the video there. What does the Scriptures say?
Well, that's actually a model of the downtown sculpture that Rabbi Greenberg, who was a long-time rabbi here in our community, put together a interfaith radio show with the Catholic priest and the
so we're looking at some artifacts here, right?
And we're looking at some sculptures around our building. Whether it's these representations or the scriptures that we study, they're all a part of our tradition.
All right. Another call here. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, John. Good morning, Rabbi Rick.
Good morning.
Listen, a couple of questions for you. Do you feel offended by the organization Jews for Jesus? That's one.
Okay.
And are you still waiting for the coming Messiah? And since you're not accepting Christ Jesus as your Messiah, you're still waiting for the coming Messiah.
Two good questions. Thank you.
And they're related because the organization Jews for Jesus, or places that call themselves Messianic Jewish, are groups that consider Jesus to be the Messiah, which is in my vantage point Christianity, which is all well and good. It's just Judaism and Christianity are not the same. There's a lot we partner on, but they're not one and the same. And when early Judaism accepted certain small groups accepted Jesus as Messiah, as there were other messianic movements, that led into Christianity, and that's fine. It's just not Judaism.
Take a quick call here. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. Hello, caller. Caller.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
To make a point that it says that under the Ten Commandments, you shall not have no other gods before you. Well, we're gods, and we put other people before us, like movie stars and actors and all that. That's why we got a lot of conflict happening in the Middle East. We're gods.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
As to anticipating the Messiah, certainly within Judaism there are those who believe that the Messiah is still coming. Liberal Judaism tends to look more at the work for what you might consider a messianic age. We're not necessarily looking for a personal Messiah person, but we're looking for everyone to partner with everyone else to do the work.
So it may not be necessarily a person like Jesus.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Talking to Rabbi Rick Weiner of Temple Beth Israel here in the city of Fresno. Glad to have him along, and glad to have your phone calls at 436 MeTV, option 11. Remember, though, when you call in, I heard the TVs were up on some of those calls. Got to turn the sound down on your set before you call in. Back in a moment.
When you're looking for Whirlpool innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, will help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified Whirlpool appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
I am not a religious scholar, but doesn't the scripture say that the Jews are the chosen people by God? Chosen by God?
That's a whole nother fun topic.
All right. We only got
the response
what?
often is, can't you choose somebody else for a while? Liberal Judaism doesn't like that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, we've only got about 10 minutes left, so we better not touch on that too much.
The way I look at that is, it's like high school pride. My high school is better than your high school because it's my high school.
But do you believe that? Let me ask you that.
No,
do you believe that?
And that's the way I describe it. I believe that my religion is better because it's my religion, and you should believe that your religion is better because it's your religion. Everybody should have their own pride.
Did God choose the Jewish people to be His chosen people?
Well, okay, so religiously I'm liberal. The book that we're reading that in comes from my tradition, so of course it would say that. And everybody else's tradition ought to say that they're the best as well. From a liberal vantage point, and I mean this in a religious liberal way, mine can be just as valuable as anyone else's, and mine doesn't necessarily have all the right answers.
Yeah.
So we share in truth together.
I want to roll the videotape as we're short on time. I want to show some of the artifacts that are at Temple Beth Israel, and here they are right here in the city of Fresno. Go ahead and explain what we're looking at here. I see another menorah there. I love those menorahs.
Right, and that one's a Hanukkah menorah. We have, this case does displays for different holidays. This one is still up from our recent Hanukkah celebration.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is with a Hanukkah menorah, it's 8 or 9 branches for the festival of Hanukkah. The ancient menorah is 7 branches
Look
for
at that
the
right
Sabbath.
There. That's beautiful.
And those are objects that go back to the early days of Temple Beth Israel.
Okay, another call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, why isn't the Bible in the New York Times bestseller?
Why isn't it?
Yes.
How am I going to answer that? I have no idea. Go ahead.
because we're getting it on Kindle now. I don't know. It's it actually has. I don't know. Maybe they've taken it off just because it's kind of a given. It is constantly the best-selling book in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
Plus, there are plenty of different versions, so that does affect it. I have a dozen different versions.
All right, another piece of videotape. It's called Library, and we'll talk about Temple Beth Israel and the library. Go ahead and roll the tape, and there it is right there. How large a library do you have?
It's big. I actually don't know how many. We have several thousand volumes. We also have a very extensive Holocaust collection. We've worked very hard at building up the library.
Can anyone walk in there and just pull out a book, or?
Yes, anybody can come in and read it. You have to fill out a card in order to actually borrow something, but it is available for people to come and study.
Like any normal library, pretty much. Okay. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. Your question.
Yeah, hi. My question is, what is Reconstructionism Judaism? I have a friend who's a rabbi who does that.
Oh, good question.
And in fact, one of our locals is a Reconstructionist rabbi back east. He grew up here in Fresno. Reconstructionist lies in between Reform and Conservative Judaism on the spectrum generally. It's an outgrowth of Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan, who... well, let's see, his daughter was the first bat mitzvah in 1921 or 22. Reconstructionist Judaism actually completely rejects the notion of chosenness and took it out of all of the Jewish prayers. Kaplan's work, Judaism as a Civilization, talks much more about the Jewish community and culture as opposed to particularistic religious thoughts.
Another piece of videotape, take whichever one you want, and we'll talk about it, because that's how good Rabbi Rick Weiner is. There it is, right there, up on the screen. What are we looking at here?
So we have quite a few posters up around our building right now, because on the 21st we will be celebrating 25 years of Temple Beth Israel's Social Action Award. So we're honoring and remembering all 24 of our last participants. As I was saying, that Judaism is really involved in making the world a better place. Temple Beth Israel has looked out into the community of Fresno and its surroundings at all of the people who have made a difference. There's only one actual Temple Beth Israel member on the list. The rest are all non-Jews who we celebrate the work that they've done and the things that we can do to help with them. Last year we honored the founders of the United Cerebral Palsy organization here in town. Before that it was a couple who established a dental clinic for low income. Over the years, there have just been many different things that work there. The hospice, which is so valuable work. All of the people who have given so much of their lives to make the community a better place.
And one more piece of video, as the Jewish Temple Beth Israel is very involved in this community, and you give back a lot, and you're to be commended for being involved in all those charities and all those great organizations. There is Temple Beth Israel, the outside right there. Only got a couple of minutes left, so we may not be able to finish out on this video, but that's the outside, right?
That is. That's actually the outside of our library, which is the first thing you see as you drive into the campus.
Beautiful, just beautiful architecture and work. And now you've been here 3 years. Are you going to stay?
I'm hoping to. Okay. I'm planning to. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
You can talk to my board about that.
We've got 1 minute left, and I want to ask you a very important question, and I got to ask you to cut it down to 30 seconds. Because of the Holocaust, do you still find that even in this day and age, 2014, is there still prejudice against the Jewish state, the Jewish people, the Jewish religion?
There is prejudice throughout the world against all sorts of minorities, including Judaism. And actually, it's what brings me together with many of my Muslim and Arab neighbors here in America, because they share a lot of the prejudicial treatment that we do. Yeah. There's prejudice throughout the world. And yet, on the other side, there are people who are breaking down prejudicial barriers, regardless of religion, sexual orientation. We're making progress, but there's still a long way to go for everyone, including the Jewish community.
It was such a pleasure having you on the show today, and I hope you come back.
I'd be happy to.
Welcome guest here anytime.
Thank you. It was an honor to be here.
All right. Have a good day. I appreciate it. Rabbi Rick Weiner of Temple Beth Israel here in the city of Fresno. Tomorrow, we'll be talking politics, the president's visit to the Central Valley. We're going to be back with Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
Do you like me?
Just like me.
Like MeTV Fresno on Facebook. Get the latest news, interact with others, watch videos, become a fan of me.